Actually, the two people who were quoted, you and a Miss Valentine, I happen to know both of you. So I thought the article was good.
Thank you. The mayor's office actually called and apologized and said that they would be sure to be including funeral directors and mortuary providers and morgue
Good.
workers. So it was a good victory, actually. It was nice.
Yes, I thought it was a good article. So
Thanks.
congratulations.
Thank you.
John, what happened there?
I'm now going back to mute.
The city, and as part of the ticket tape parade on the 7th, didn't include mortuary workers, funeral directors, anyone in the death service business from COVID. So
That
a couple of us just, kind of like spoke up just for the whole industry. I mean, we've been through a lot as a group for the last year and a half.
Yeah, no, understandably. I can only imagine. I don't think I could actually picture what that entailed, but
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I just, when Jerry Armour speaks, I tend to want to hear what he's saying. So I heard part of it, and then, that was, I figured, but I didn't. Where was the article? Maybe it can include.
Gothamist.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Are you mentioning it specifically?
Yeah. I'm quoted. They reached out to me. Yeah.
Cool.
And by the time CBS News came around to do an interview, the mayor's office had called to apologize, so it didn't have to go any further.
Mike, can you send me an agenda?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't seem to have one.
Yeah. Okay. I'll resend it. I have to send Mark okay. I'm gonna mute my screen. I'm gonna mute it for a second, but I'm gonna send you an agenda and Mark a new link.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, hello to whoever said that.
Hi, thank you. This is Tiffany.
Mute now. Start video. Let's just see the video. I want people on the video. Bob.
I'm sorry, what?
Bob, that's Bob Levine.
Yeah,
Hi, Bob. It's Dolly.
I just said it sounded like Dolly, yep.
Okay, let me get off that video. Stop the video and I will listen. Oh, wait a minute. Is that the old stone house in the background? Wait.
I think so. Ty, how are we doing on a quorum?
I was just unmuting to tell you, Peter, that if my count is correct, we're at 25, which would be a quorum.
Okay, we're going to wait another 5 minutes, though.
Who just asked me about the old stone house?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that's the old stone house behind me.
Yes, yes. Oh. We'll tap the speak. Mhm.
Dolly, you gotta mute yourself.
Hello,
Hi, Dolly, it's
Jerry.
Jerry.
How
Yeah,
are
you-
you?
Okay,
I'm trying to get some apples from the bowl here. I'm kind of starving.
I know, but
So,
you gotta
How
mute.
are you? How are
Okay,
you?
I'm good, but you gotta mute your mic.
Oh, I have to mute my mic. Okay, I have to mute. Of course, I have to mute my mic.
We'll start in another 2 or 3 minutes.
I'm here, Peter.
Hello, Bridget.
Okay. I know, yeah. Oh, sure. They're the same price anyway. It's like one organic avocado. So when do you leave on the 30th? Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I'm alright. Yeah, it's the day I get back. Not sure if I'll be here for 4th of July or if I'll be at my parents'.
Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for the June meeting of Brooklyn Community Board 6. I don't have a great deal to report. Yesterday was election day, and it seems very likely that our district will be represented by some new elected officials. Of course, we don't know who that is yet because of ranked choice voting. So we probably won't know that for a few more weeks. I think some of the races are clear. Some of them, it's going to depend on, how people rank their second, third, and fourth choices. So we will wait for that. Those of you who live in the north end of Park Slope have probably noticed that the key food is half empty. There is, they still have milk and meat and things and vegetables and things like that, but the rest of the shelves are relatively empty. The article I read said that they are closing in August. It would surprise me if it was not sooner, but we'll have to see what happens. But in the meantime, you can still get things like milk and bread, perishables and things like that, but canned goods are pretty scarce. My understanding is they'll be closed in August and they will start demolition by the end of the year. And a new supermarket will open in 2024. So we've got approximately 3 years without that Key Food supermarket. Mike checked and he determined that the agreement that was signed with regards to a grocery store with the previous developer is still in effect. So we will have the benefit of those terms. It talks about, the size of the supermarket, what kind of, supermarket it can't be is mostly what it's, what it's considering. But yes, the Key Food is closing. To respond to somebody's question, they're building an apartment complex on that site. And they've agreed to put a large, although not quite as large as Key Food, grocery store in the base of that building. So, but they've not yet announced what that store will be. Those are the only announcements that I have, other than to say that, we're dealing, tonight with the Gowanus rezoning. And it's a very large project. And I hope that when we get to discussing that, that we can all be civil and that we can respect time limits. Try and keep your comments to 3 minutes or so. We sat through a lengthy public hearing that lasted from 3:30 in the afternoon till approximately 9:30 at night. Most of those people were respectful. So I hope that our own board members can do the same. And this is a reminder to those of you that are listening, only community board members can speak during community board meetings. So while we're happy to have you here to hear what we decide and how we decide it, unfortunately, we will not be able to hear from you during that debate. Your opportunity to say your piece was during the public hearing. We're going to get started now with our district manager's report.
Yeah, hello. Hello, everybody. I think Eric is posting about the Key Food. I see it out of the corner of my eye. I don't have a ton to say. I know most of you just heard from me a couple of hours ago, and much like my newsletter indicated, my focus is on the Gowanus rezoning. I know I've been talking with Alec and Peter and plenty of other people about this and the vote this evening, and I'll place it in the chat, but there is a, I think, 15-page resolution that was approved, conditional approval that was voted on last week by our Landmarks Land Use Committee, and we'll go from there. So, but like I said, if you want to hear from me in longer forms, feel free to shoot me an email, mike@bkcb6.org, or text BKCB6 to 22828, and you can receive our newsletter updates, whether they're daily or weekly, and things. Well, there's the daily option and a weekly option. But anyway, that's basically what I have today, and I'll get back to looking over some of this stuff and agreeing with what Peter just said about being civil.
That reminds me, thank you, Mike. When we do vote on the Gowanus rezoning, we will have a roll call vote, and I do plan to vote, but I will vote last. So, next we are on to permits and licenses. So,
did you do the minutes, Peter?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did the minutes?
No. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes, please, of the last meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Jerry,
Second.
second by Alec. All those in favor? Anybody against, please note so in the chat.
I didn't hear what we're voting on, Peter.
The minutes of the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay, those are approved. Permits and licenses. Rachel, you've got 3 motions.
Yes, thank you. So the first item, I just want to note, we did have quorum for all 3. So the first was liquor license application for Crosta Pizzeria, which is 486 6th Avenue. I think, yeah, it used to be, is that Soigné? I think, yeah. Just can't see. The tree is blocking literally right where the sign is, but it used to be Soigné, I think, and it's going to be a specialty pizzeria, They will have 22 tables with 44 seats. There is no outdoor space as part of this application, even though on the in the location they do have that outdoor space, but they were not. That was not part of their application at the present time. Their hours were going to be noon to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. They were only planning to have light background music as part of the application. And so we, there was no one present from the community for this application, and we approved the motion, approved the application as presented with a vote of 6-1-1, with one abstention and one against.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Are there any questions for Rachel on this application? Hearing none, we will call the question. If anybody is against an approval of an on-premises liquor license for Crosta Pizzeria at 486 6th Avenue, would you please note so in the chat? Otherwise, we're going to assume that you're in favor of it. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next motion. Thank you.
So this second item was an alteration to an application for Speakman's Gowanus, which is public records. They're at 233 Butler Street between Bond and Nevins, which is the old ASPCA building, which is across from the Gowanus pumping station, and it is outside of the rezoning area, but they are aware of it, and they are they've been partners with everything that is planned and plan to continue to do that. They are looking to expand to adding a second floor to their current space with 10 tables and 28 seats, with a third bar with 6 seats. Currently, they have 2 bars on the ground floor with 21 tables and an outdoor courtyard with 8 tables and 32 seats. They have a space that allows for dancing in one corner of the building. Their hours are 12 noon to 4 a.m. 7 days a week. What happened was during the pandemic, they switched to becoming more of a traditional restaurant, and they realized that they could do that. And then they also wanted to have a music space. So that's what they're doing with the second floor. They're going to retrofit it with some more, I don't really know the music terms, but they're going to make it have more music record playing for people and a better music experience for people. And they want to be able to have the opportunity for people to drink along with that. So they want to alter their application. We did discuss, because they have this outdoor entrance courtyard. However, this is a commercial industrial zoned area, and it could become a problem if more residential neighbors increase in that area. But right now, it doesn't seem to be a problem. Nobody from the community was present to speak to this application. And the this one was actually approved unanimously.
Great. Are there any questions for Rachel on this? Bob.
Yeah. Is there any mention in their plans to do anything on the roof?
No.
Or just, okay, fine.
No, I don't know. No. Oh, someone's asking where this is located. They're 233 Butler Street.
Okay, not hearing any other questions. We're going to call the question. All those who are against this motion, please note so in the chat. But otherwise, we are going to approve alterations to an on-premises liquor license for I'm sorry, I gotta find the address again.
Public record,
233
233.
Butler Street. Public
Yeah.
Records called at 233 Butler Street. So again, anybody who is opposed, I see Paul is opposed. Anybody else, please note so in the chat. Otherwise, the motion is approved. And Rachel, I think you have one more.
Yes, one more. Okay. Okay. The third is, this is the Armory at 149 4th Avenue at the corner of Douglas Street. So this location, the owner is from a few blocks away, and he's moving to the Douglas. But he used to operate the Armory, which was a few blocks away. And so that space, the building is under new owners or operators, and so he wants to continue operating in the area, and so he's moving here. Basically, he's continuing to operate the same type of business that he had in the prior space. It will be a cocktail bar with bar bites, and it will also be used for private functions. Their hours, they plan to do Monday through Thursday, 5 to 2 a.m., Friday, 5 to 4 a.m., Saturday and Sunday, Saturday noon to 4 a.m. and Sunday noon to 2 a.m. There's no outdoor space in this location. It will be low-key, popular, recorded music. They already have an established relationship with local PS 133 parents and their PTA, and they want to continue that in this new space. And so there also was no one from the community present for this application. And he also, because he operates in the area, we did question whether he had any complaints at his former location. He didn't. We approved this motion with a vote of 7-0 with one abstention.
Great. Are there any questions for Rachel on this motion for 4th Avenue, the old Douglas space? Hearing none, we'll call the question. If there's anybody who is against this motion, please note so in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to assume that you're voting in favor of it. Anyone? I don't see anyone, so we're going to say that.
Peter, a
Yeah.
lady had a hand up.
Eladia was the next question.
Eladia, please go ahead.
Oh, you're muted.
Remember, you have to mute yourself. Unmute yourself.
I asked him if they have a tenants in the top apartments. Or he owned the building, I don't know.
I don't believe he owns the building. I think there are tenants.
I believe there are tenants.
Okay, and he gonna contact those tenants to know that they are gonna be restaurant underneath them.
I think it was in, we didn't get into a discussion specifically about that, but I think it was in the application.
The full public notice requirement was fulfilled, yeah.
Right.
And this has been a restaurant space for quite a few years. It only closed during the pandemic. So whoever is living there, I would imagine they're already used to having a commercial establishment or restaurant on the ground floor.
Okay.
And it doesn't have outdoor space. So the sound should be minimal comparatively. Right.
Right. Again, so anybody who's against this, please note so. Otherwise, we're going to assume you're in favor of it. And we are going to move on to landmarks. There are a couple of landmarks motions before we consider the Gowanus rezoning. So David.
Thank you, Peter. The first one is 347 President Street. It's a certificate of appropriateness application for a one-story rear yard extension and installation of mechanical equipment on the roof. This is on President between Smith and Hoyt and Carroll Gardens. Yeah, so there's the location map. It's closer to Hoyt. The These are just shots of the existing house in the back. If you look at the upper right shot, that is the existing rear elevation. There's a deck with an awning over it. Some other pertinent shots. These are some plans. You can see on the two left, hold on, Ty. We go back. Yeah, just on the left there is the proposed extension, both at the cellar and the ground floor, and then there are two skylights on top of the single story extension. Next. So on the left is the existing elevation, and on the right is the proposed elevation with the new steel framed glass doors at the back. You can see the skylights there sort of shown in sort of perspective. And then at the top, you can see two HVAC units that are going to sit on curbs. Next. Yeah, so there's a sight line from across President. This is not the farthest sight line from the property. Go to the next one, Ty. And then we have these sort of Minecraft views of the property, which we weren't thrilled about, so we actually asked them to take some photographs. But yeah, the one in the upper left there is a view from across President Street up the block a little bit, showing there is a mock-up there, which you'll see in a second, showing that you really can't see the HVAC units. Next. The photograph on the upper left with the two cars in it is the view from the furthest point away. The trees are in foliage, but you know the units were not visible, nor can you see them. We're Ty circling from Hoyt Street. This is right in front of the PS32, so its original entrance. And then there's another view at the bottom on the left, which is further down towards the corner of Union Street. And that orange, that little bit of orange poking up is the mock-up. Go to the next photo. So just more views of the back and the front and backyards. Next photo. There's the mock-up. Here's a little, that's a zoomed in photo, number 6 there of the mock-up, just to show it a little bit closer. So you will see the HVAC units, though it's a fairly good distance away. And is there any more drawings here, Ty? That's it? Okay. So this was the second time they presented. The first time it was an interesting presentation, so we asked them to go back to the drawing board, and this was approved by the committee.
Great. Are there any questions for David on this motion? You have to unmute yourself and speak up if you wish to. Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote. If there's anybody that is against approving of this as a certificate of appropriateness for landmarks, please state so in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to assume you're in favor of it. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the next motion, David.
Okay, so the next one is at 424 7th Avenue, a certificate of appropriateness application for a rebuilt existing one-story garage and terrace with updated garage doors and new parapet railing details. So this is the location map. The cross street is 14th. It's on the corner. That's a historic photo on the left, and then a more recent photo on the right. The garage is right where Ty's cursor is in the back corner there on the right. I'll go to the next one, Ty. So here's the existing garage as it exists today. There, it's a 2 doors, some deteriorated brick with a lot of efflorescence, and a railing and fence up above. Go to the next photo. Detail the terracotta on the lower left there, but just otherwise 2 more photos showing the conditions. Another photo. This is a proposed rendering. You can see they're maintaining the terracotta detail in the center of the facade, about halfway up the wall. And they're raising the wall a little bit and taking away the fence and putting in new doors with new light fixtures. Next. Yes. So this is a simple plan. There's 2 cars on the right hand side and 1 car on the left. That's the terrace above. Next photo. That's an elevation. That's the existing condition, which looks better in a drawing than it does in photos. And then this is the proposed addition. So actually the height of it comes down because the fence is being removed, but the brick wall is higher. So there's a parapet there. And some more details. Next. They're making some efforts to match the terracotta coloring. Detail the light fixture and the color of the garage door.
That's the last slide, David.
Okay, and so we liked it. So the committee approved it.
Great. Are there any questions for David on this application? Please unmute yourself and speak up if you have any. Hearing none, we're going to call the question. If anybody is not in favor of the certificate of appropriateness for, I'm sorry, the house number is
424 7th Avenue.
424 7th Avenue, then please note so in the chat. Otherwise, we will assume that you are in favor of it. Okay, seeing none, we've approved that motion. Councilman Brad Lander is here to speak with us. He is currently leading in the race for controller, and we'll see how that finally turns out when they count the ranked choice votes. But Councilman Lander, if you have a few comments to make, we'd be happy to have them.
Thank you so much, Peter. I'll be brief in part because after a late night last night, my daughter graduated high school this morning, and we're having a few people over to celebrate. So it's been a pretty busy 36 hours. Yeah, and I'll come back again at the next board meeting, and we'll see where things are, and we can talk more maybe about what agencies you all think one would need to get busy auditing. But for tonight, I just want to make very brief comments to say, I looked at the draft resolution, the resolution that came out of committee on Gowanus. And I know there's obviously, different points of view on the board, but I don't see how anyone could look at it and not think that is a board that does its job very thoughtfully, that really digs in on the details, that listens to people, that spends time, getting in the weeds, that really is just not phoning it in. It is an extremely thoughtful, detailed, aggressive resolution. And so I'll just say, I feel on the one hand, very aligned with it, the things that it really pushes on real meaningful oversight and an insistence that the city agree to it, on resources for NYCHA, upfront capital funding to address the needs of Gowanus and Wyckoff Gardens, on the insistence that the EPA weigh in on a series of environmental issues, including CSO pollution, on investments and resources for the IBZ. Those are all things that we've heard so many times in the community that are critical to many, many different folks, including GNCJ, and that the community board has really been the leader on for years and years and years. So I think it is very detailed and thoughtful. And I guess I'll just say, if this is the resolution or something very similar to it that comes out of the community board, I will take it as marching orders, as an instruction manual for what I should be fighting for when that gets to the council, and that I would not take it as like, approve loudly and with modifications quietly, but as really a very strong resolution that insists on what is needed to make this something that the board would feel worthy of approval and proud of. So I want to thank Alec and everyone who spent time on it. I want to thank all the advocates, including folks who are going to vote no tonight and are don't think this is the right thing, and including everyone who has dug in. Again, whatever people think, This process has been deeply thoughtful. The proposal has gotten much better as a result of community input, and this resolution speaks deeply to what would be needed to make it a good one. So I'm going to go celebrate with my daughter, but Julia Ehrman is here as she always is. I look forward to hearing about your deliberation and debate, seeing the final resolution that comes out of the board. But I just want to thank the board. That hearing was quite remarkable in terms of listening to people and finding a way to do it. But it wasn't just one night. It caps years of thoughtful dialogue and debate at this board about these issues in a way that I think the neighborhood and the people in it really are well served by and can be very proud of. So thank you for including me along the way. This is just the beginning of the of many of these conversations, or I guess the middle of many of these conversations. And again, I would take this resolution as an instruction manual, as marching orders from the community. And I thank you for it.
Thanks very much, Brad. So we're going to move on to the, the reason that many of us are here tonight, which is to consider the resolution on the Gowanus rezoning. So our new land use chair is Alex Scherenbeck, and he was very ably the chair of the public hearing we had a few weeks ago. So I'd like to ask Alec to, and enlisting whatever assistance he thinks is necessary to make his presentation about tonight's motion. Then we will have a discussion of that motion. The most effective way to do that is to use the hand raising function which is up, on your control panel for your Zoom app. And I believe what it does is it puts people on my screen in order of the time of the way the order in which you raised your hand. So that is the order in which I will recognize you. So take it, go ahead, Alec.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you to the council member for saying much of what I thought I might say now. So I'll try to skip quickly to the substance. I think will say though that I was blown away by the public testimony we all received. And it was a long meeting, but it was really worth it. I thought there was very, very insightful testimony that informed our committee's deliberation and really moving testimony from people who've lived in our neighborhood for decades, people who wish they could live in our neighborhood if they could afford it, people who are concerned about environmental degradation that's happened for decades that have necessitated all kinds of changes in the zoning code to try to improve the state of affairs, people who want real EPA oversight. And I think that those voices are reflected in the resolution, or at least we've tried to create a resolution that reflects those voices. Now, it's a 6,000 word resolution. It's been circulated, so you've all had an opportunity to see it. Our committee voted on, I think, 18 amendments. I won't go through each of the amendments that the committee voted on, but they're all reflected in the resolution that Mike has sent around multiple times. The resolution makes a series of demands of the city, which it makes clear are conditions of our support. And ultimately, it recommends approving the rezoning if those conditions are met. Chief among those demands is, I think, full funding of capital needs for Gowanus houses and Wyckoff Gardens, which are, the public housing developments impacted by the rezoning that have been long neglected by every level of government. But our resolution touches on environmental remediation, infrastructure investments, protections for the IBZ. It makes comments on how to deliver real, deeply affordable housing, new investments in open space, and more. Again, the details have been circulated. You've seen them, you've read them, but that's where we were coming from. Jerry carried the resolution in committee. The vote in our committee was 8-4 with 2 abstentions. So it was a 2-1 in favor of this resolution. And as it's Jerry's resolution, Jerry carried it. I wanted to see if he had a few words about what it is our committee was trying to do.
Oh, boy. I put together some notes so that I wouldn't thumper on this more than I usually do. So some of it our councilman already spoke about, and without having a moment to edit them, I will just work from my notes and we'll go from there. I'm trying to outline why we made the motion in the direction that we did. As a board, there are two choices we have on the Gowanus rezoning proposal. We can recommend disapproval and state our reasons, or we can recommend approval with conditions. If we disapprove and we state why we disapprove, we are basically removing ourselves from the picture. Why should anybody listen to us? By saying approved with conditions, we are saying this is how we think you can make the Gowanus rezoning proposal even better, more responsive, and more of a guarantee that it will give the neighborhood what we feel is necessary, produce the jobs, the affordable housing, and everything else that we want to see, and protect the IBZ. Okay. Okay. And we are also doing one thing which the councilman spoke about. We are giving the councilman and the borough president a roadmap on how we feel this should be improved. And I think it's, Mike mentioned earlier, it's 15 pages. It's somewhere around 13 to 15 pages. And it's one hell of a roadmap. As an aside to my notes, I would like to congratulate everybody on the committee, Alec, and the public for putting in the time that they put in on this. And I should say, and the community who put in the 10 years worth of time on this. And to continue. Yes, our conditions are long and many, and that's what happens when the proposed zoning covers 80 blocks and it has a DEIS of around 1,000 pages. We felt that in order to secure the changes that were in the proposal that would make it even better, such as the Gowanus Zoning Commitment Task Force, which would be able to oversee and look and will work with developers, that we needed to come out with positive yes, but, and that's what we did. And I think we have to remember something here. Community boards are advisory, and as such, our advice can be taken or not taken. And it's better to come to the table with something that our elected officials, the borough president, and the councilman can work with than just saying no. And I think we've done that with this motion. And I think that way we will be able to say we improved the rezoning and we were not ignored. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And Peter, I don't know if you want to move to comments and questions, but I think we can.
Great. I see that Mark Shames has already raised his hand, and he is the first person on my list. So I will recognize Mark. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
I think I unmuted myself successfully for a change. Good to see you, Peter, and everyone else. There are a lot of conditions here. I overwhelmingly support like 99.9% of those conditions. I think they make this better. I think they're good for the community. However, I'm also on the Economic Development Committee as well as the Land Use Committee. And in speaking to some people around economic development issues and the IBZ, I would like to offer yet one more amendment, which I hope would be a friendly amendment that Jerry could accept. Let me read it out and see what he has to say about it. And if he does accept it, then it could be part of what we're moving forward on. And this is that the city should guarantee a $5 million investment into an open access conduit system with interconnection points throughout the IBZ vision study area. Multiple fiber providers can pull fiber through the conduit system, creating a marketplace for high-speed internet services. This will increase the value of property in the IBZ and also be an incentive for businesses to locate within the Gowanus IBZ. And I hope this is acceptable. If it is, I would like to add it to the resolution, which I assume we have more paper that we can print this on. And so if it's acceptable to Jerry, I offer this as a friendly amendment.
Okay, Mark, can I ask one question? You literally mean with the word conduit, you mean something where the wires can be pulled through under the roadbed, correct?
Yes, yes, correct, sir.
I think that we have often stated our support for the IBZ. And we did want to see that the IBZ was covered a little better in the final draft proposal, but we have been promised that city planning will come back to us with an IBZ proposal to improve it. And I think that in line with that, and we've gone on record supporting the IBZ, I do accept the amendment.
Thank you, Jerry. Very gracious of you.
Great. So, Mark, if you can forward the text of that amendment to the office so that we can appropriately add it. But anybody considering this should note that Mark's amendment has been accepted as a friendly one and that it's going to become part of the resolution.
Thank you, Peter. And I'll do what you asked. Yes.
Right. Are there others who have questions or comments who are members of the community board? If you wish to raise your hand, I'd be happy to recognize you. Glenn.
Thank you, Peter. So the Gowanus Plan is the most consequential matter to come before this community board since its creation almost 50 years ago. This will be the most important decision we're likely to make in our capacity as board members and will have far-reaching effects for all of us. Last week, I voted against the motion made by our land use committee because the 14 pages of conditions which were added to the approval are substantial, and they expose major flaws in the DEIS, including the fact that the DES does not even meet the legal requirements. It is ridiculous, in my opinion, to support this plan with so many obvious defects. This plan could increase the population of this community district by 25% without any certainty that there will be enough transit and sewage capacity, schools, and open space. I think we should reject this plan as decisively as Community Board 2 has for the following reasons. One, the affordable housing dilemma. Don't be fooled into thinking that this is an affordable housing plan. The affordable housing component is a Trojan horse, which will allow developers to gentrify Gowanus beyond recognition. New York has always been an expensive place to live, and although affordable housing has been a concern for decades, we've let hundreds of thousands of rent-controlled and rent-stabilized apartments slip away. We've also abandoned our NYCHA housing, which now requires $30 to $40 billion of repairs and upgrades. Although this plan is presented as an affordable housing plan, it is actually a colossal transfer of wealth to developers and real estate investors. 90% of the proposed development will be market rate housing and commercial space, and much of it will be exempt from real estate taxes for up to 35 years. And let's not forget the 2017 Opportunity Zone program, which is supposed to help low-income communities, but really just provides capital gain tax avoidance for all investors in Gowanus without requiring any benefits to our community. They only have to invest their money and can build whatever they want. This scam is a massive swindle masquerading as social justice. This board was one of the only community boards to approve the MIH ZQA zoning change, which was implemented by New York City in 2016. It was created by city planning in cooperation with the real estate industry and has produced very little affordable housing. It is generally regarded as a failure. Here's why. Let's do the math. If we're counting on this to replace the 500,000 affordable apartments we've lost, it will require building at least 2 to 3 million units, which would just gentrify the entire city and make it a less desirable place to live. There are other solutions available. We are not going to build our way out of this mess we've created. Also consider that our likely next mayor opposed MIH ZQA when it came before the borough board. 2, the dangerous development contradiction. For me, the most absurd thing about this zoning proposal is that after Superstorm Sandy, our Department of City Planning has spent 10 years modifying waterfront zoning rules to reduce the risk to people and property. but now proposes to dramatically increase the people and property at risk. This is counterproductive and I think foolish. 3, elusive environmental justice. The Gowanus Canal corridor has been contaminated for more than 100 years before we realized the long-term costs to our health and our environment. We have a chance to clean up the poison left behind by the ignorant and selfish polluters, but there is an increasing chance that we will be thwarted by 2 of the largest polluters, New York City and National Grid. New York City has delayed its responsibilities to the National Clean Water Act for decades and is an unwilling participant to this cleanup. It continues to use the Gowanus as an open sewer, even as it promotes development there. Our current and previous mayor both oppose the EPA listing of the canal as a Superfund site. The city continues to delay and complicate remediation, preferring to protect political careers and real estate interests rather than public health. After the New York State DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, failed to properly clean the former manufactured gas plant at the Lowe's site, they realized that their canal cleanup was beyond their capability, so they asked the EPA to consider adding the Gowanus to the national priorities list. It is the EPA which has brought their expertise and legal arsenal and finally began to clean the canal. New York State couldn't do it, and New York City wouldn't do it. Unfortunately, New York State DEC is still responsible to oversee the remediation of the land adjacent to the canal, but they're allowing National Grid to reduce their responsibility at the 2 other former gas plants. Instead of making the polluter pay, as the EPA does, they're handing out brownfield grants to developers. I haven't been able to get a sensible explanation why. 4, public health risk. The worst part of the Gowanus Plan is that much of the area is a floodplain and many of the properties are contaminated. This is the absolute worst place to build housing, especially affordable housing. Imagine trading your health or the health of your children for a rent subsidy.
Try and wrap it up, Glenn, please.
I'm wrapping up. Even if I had confidence that these sites would be properly cleaned up, there is still the threat of global warming and sea level rise. I expect that at some point this century, hundreds of millions of people will be displaced around the world. How does it make sense to add to this number? There is plenty of uncontaminated land on higher ground. Let's build there. Negotiation 101. While we're all volunteers and our vote is only advisory, it is still important. Even though we might have different ideas and opinions, we're supposed to be looking out for our shared community first. If we surrender the only leverage we have, a vote to disapprove the plan, we will have failed. An approval with however many conditions will be counted as an approval, and the conditions will fall by the wayside. Some of us old timers have witnessed this before, and we know how it'll play out. For those of you who are new to the community board, I'll explain. Our conditions are a wish list. They will be countered with promises and then forgotten. Once the zoning is implemented, our leverage is gone. This is a losing strategy. Our mayor and councilmen are term limited and will be leaving office in a few months. They've promoted and pushed this plan, but will not be in a position to help implement or improve or monitor it. I'm hopeful that
You've been
next
speaking
mayor
for
will
6
be
minutes.
truly
Please wrap it
progressive
up.
and not rely on trickle-down subsidies to create the needed affordable housing. There are a lot of reasonable ideas out there, and we should use them all and then double down on those which work best. The 2 frontrunners in our 39th Council District have both expressed dissatisfaction with the plan as presented. Let's work with them to devise a plan which won't sacrifice what we like about Gowanus, which won't put people at risk, which won't be an enormous windfall for investors at our expense, which won't harm those it claims to help, and which finally cures the environmental injustice we have lived with for so long. Our descendants will look back at our decision today, and we do not want our names on this ill-conceived plan. Join me and vote no on this motion to approve, and then vote yes on a motion to disapprove the plan.
Thank you, Glenn. Victoria.
I couldn't agree more with everything that Glenn says. And if I actually had any hope that the things that were in these amendments and requests would be facilitated, I would vote yes for this proposal, because if they were going to happen, I would say yes. This is just, all of the things make total sense. But none of us say, you know what was great? The rezoning of Williamsburg. I'm really proud of what happened there. And Bloomberg really did right by the community there. Because what parks are still waiting are tied up in litigation. What affordable housing projects have happened? I just see a bunch of high rises for rich white people and not a lot of the things that the community asked for, which was mixed use and other things that we don't have. And the politicians failed us too. So I just don't have a lot of faith, even though we put these amendments forward, that they're going to actually be executed. I would vote for this proposal if I thought that the things that we're asking for would happen, but they're not going to. And we're going to end up with something that's just like Williamsburg, unfortunately. And it's really sad what has happened there. And that's why I gave up my minutes to Glenn, because I'm done just saying, why are we trusting people that have failed us time and time again? There's no real estate developers like, oh, Joe Sitt, he really did right by the community. Oh, you know what? Trump, Thor Equities, they did right by us, but because they didn't. You would be preaching these people's names. They would be coming from your lips that they actually served this community and did what was right for us. But we don't praise them. We don't praise Bloomberg, and we don't praise real estate developers for the great job that they did for us. That is all.
Thanks, Victoria. Joanne Brown.
Oh, shoot. Oh, good evening, everyone. I'm just thank you, Glenn, and thank you, Vanessa. What I'm just want to just complain about is that, well, when they doing this rezoning, they are not looking at how they're going to be blocking out the sun, rather from the pool. I'm just talking about the Thomas Green Park right now, and then I'm gonna get on rather with the other buildings. But I'm with everybody else. I will not vote for this rezoning or these high rises. Because right now you have a lot of people that lost their jobs and does not have a place to stay right now. And they're out of work and everywhere else. But get back to my Thomas Green Park, they're going to build this giant high rise, but then they're going to be blocking out the sun from the pool.
Joanne, you muted yourself again. Joanne, you muted yourself. So you're still muted, Joanne. There you go. Okay, continue.
I just wanted to say thank y'all for just letting me have my little say about this, and also about the blocking of the pool and all these giant high rises. I will not agree to that. No, my answer would be no to that.
Thank you, Joanne. Alec?
Thank you. I just wanted to say a few things in response to Glenn's remarks, because I think there are some factual inaccuracies in Glenn's remarks around the housing component of this plan. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with the facts. Glenn said that this plan would create 90% market rate housing. That's factually wrong. He knows that's wrong. Actually, he made that same point in the committee. He was corrected then. He conceded it was wrong, but he's repeated it here today. The fact is that there will be, on just the Gowanus Green site alone, 950 units of all affordable housing. That's the publicly owned site. And then for the parts of the plan that are not publicly owned, it will be 20 to 30% affordable housing. Now, your next question is, okay, you say affordable. How affordable could it be, right? Well, here's one of the facts. What we recommend in our resolution is that the city go with an option that would mandate 40% AMI affordable housing. Now, what does that mean? Well, 40% affordable housing, of AMI affordable housing, means that for a family of 3, they would have a household income of just $42,960, and that the apartment would be made affordable to them. Now, I know, and you know, that we'd like to have even more deeply affordable housing. But if you think that our neighborhood has options for people who earn $42,000 a year to live here, you're sorely mistaken. That might have been the case in the early 90s when my parents were able to buy a brownstone with a nurse's salary. Somebody worked for a union, and many of the people here were lucky enough to move into this neighborhood back when that was true. But anybody who's been here long enough knows that we have sorely lost those opportunities and seen a precipitous drop in socioeconomic and racial diversity as a result of losing those housing opportunities. The reason I'm supporting this resolution is because I see the rezoning as a way to win back some of that neighborhood we've lost. Some people are nostalgic for the way the buildings have been built. I'm nostalgic for the people that used to live in them. And I'm really sick of living in a neighborhood where you have to be a doctor or a lawyer to be able to move in here again. So that's what's motivating me. And I think we need to have a conversation with the facts. There are serious concerns about this proposal around infrastructure and environment. I think they're addressed in the resolution, but let's not cloud what's actually on the table here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alec. Bob Levine is next. And please, if you wish to be recognized, raise your hand. I want to recognize everyone for the first time before I recognize people for the second time, just to be fair. So Bob can go ahead and unmute yourself, speak, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't want to pick on anyone. I'm just using Glenn as an example. I think what most of the things he said, I agree with. I think they're important issues. But if I look historically at the area, or in general about how developers are working, the developers are going to come in and pretty much do what they want to do. I mean, we have Lightstone in the middle of the Gowanus that, as far as I'm concerned, because of all the pollution in the Gowanus, and for the same reasons that we don't, or he or others don't think there should be the rezoning change. But if we don't do anything, that's going to continue. And I feel that this is the only way that we do have some sort of leverage and get our foot in the door to say, this is what we want in there when there is something to do, when developers come in. Otherwise, we don't have a say. And that's pretty much what Jerry said when he started on why we're doing this. This is our chance to put in some demands, to put in some requests that EPA look at what's going on before they do anything. I'm sure they will negotiate with the city, and it might not be before the way we would like, but it will be something that we are saying, and we're telling our politicians, whoever will be there, that this is what we want. And it's, I think, important to get our say and what we think we'd like to see in there put in now when we have the chance. That's all.
Great, thank you, Bob. Jerry, and then Ariel.
What I have to say is real quick. If we don't rezone the area, we will see what happened and has been projected to happen and happened in parts of Red Hook already. Developers will come in and say, oh, I would like to build this. I will rezone. It won't be spot zoning. Please give me a variance, not a zoning change. And little by little, they will chip away and we will have a little control. The Board of Standards and Appeals that rules on variances does not have any input from the borough president or the city council or a city council representative. It is exclusively appointed by the mayor, and they will do the bidding of the mayor. I don't care who the mayor is, if it's this one, the current one, or the next one, or the next one. There are some controls that we can see going in with rezoning that makes sense. Opening it up to variances up and down the canal on the east and west side is asking for more problems. It does not guarantee us any additional school space. It does not guarantee us anything, any kind of overview by the EPA. A variance is independent. And by doing that, there would be no control. There would be no task force, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure that the rezoning and the buildings and all follow whatever is approved. It's piecemeal. It would be left to be piecemealed, nibbled away, little bite by little bite. And I think that's wrong. And that's one reason why I presented the motion and still support it.
Great, thank you, Jerry. Ariel, please unmute and speak.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. I wanted to point out something that Glenn said about MIH. It's true, we were one of the few community boards that actually voted for it, but in part, it actually is because it could work in our district, which is a very high income district. And with that, we would get, what we've asked for is the lowest for the MIH affordable housing would be for the lowest income segment of the possible options. So with that, it would be roughly, I think, around 20-25%, but that would be absolutely conditional. HPD is going to claw every single one of those, and it is by law, and every developer will have to do that, and they can do that, and we will have higher income residents subsidizing those lower income units. So that's one thing. The second thing, I think Alec already mentioned, it's not 90%, especially when you include in Gowanus Green. And third, I think for everyone, anyone, even people who are, if this passes at the far end of the ULURP, people who could have a lot of the concerns are things that we are now have requested the oversight rezoning task force. And that is something that I would welcome all 100 of those people that wrote me to not vote yes on this, to join in and make sure that we now have the opportunity, which is something Williamsburg didn't have. Two things: it didn't have mandatory inclusionary, and it did not have any oversight from the community. The community is going to have to hold the city, all of its agencies, and the developers to task on this. And we have the opportunity to do that because it is written as our #1 element in our rezoning resolution.
Thank you, Ariel. David Briggs.
Thank you, Peter. Last fall, I believe, we had a presentation, a community presentation on the park that was supposed that some people want in lieu of Gowanus Green. And during that presentation, my colleague, Tracy Pinkard at the Gowanus Houses direct chatted me and said, "Is this an example of displacement?" And admittedly, I didn't quite understand what she meant at the time. And then I thought about it a little bit, and she and I had a dialogue. And I realized really what she was getting at is that, the people that are voting for a park were ironically, apparently it's, they're saying the housing shouldn't happen there because it's too contaminated, but the kids can frolic in the soil that's contaminated. But that by voting against 950 units of supportive housing, home ownership for low-income families, low-income housing and moderate housing, no market rate housing, and a new public school was essentially, if we voted against it, we were displacing an opportunity for those people, whoever they are, to live there and support a park that will be mostly white and mostly well off. Let's face it, that's what our neighborhood is. I didn't move to New York City to live in a charming village. I moved to New York City because I love its diversity, I love its energy, and I love the fact that it can change. And it's time for this community to get its arms around that and change, because we're moving into the 21st century. We're out of whack where things should be. And if we don't vote for this, then we're just going to make the situation worse. Thank you.
Thank you. I just again encourage you, if you want to speak on this motion, to please use the hand raising function. And now I'm going to recognize Tiffany Reed Brown to make her contribution. And please remember to unmute yourself, Tiffany.
Good evening, everyone. My biggest concern with the rezoning, mostly with the developers, is that they allocate such a small amount of apartments for affordable housing. That has been my issue from day one in regards to this process in general. It's always 25% of apartments that's allocated for affordable housing, which is the AMI of the area. Park Slope Gowanus, our AMI is over $150,000. So with that, so many residents don't get a chance to apply because they don't qualify. I mean, with this, we should have developers where it's at least 50% of the apartments are for affordable housing and low income. Especially if we're considering, we're saying that we're making this for I'm sorry, I'm at work and I'm like tongue-tied right now. I feel like we should have it where it's 50% of the apartments are allocated for low-income housing, because if that's what we're trying to do, we're trying to make Gowanus Park Slope affordable. You can't do that with 75% of your apartments going for market rate. there's no way you're opening it up for everyone if that's what it is, if it's only 25%. And a lot of times, even with some of the affordable housing standards now, I can't afford them and I work for the city. So I don't know. I feel like that's a big issue. I feel like the apartments allocated for low income and affordable housing should be much greater than what it is.
Thank you very much, Tiffany. Bridget?
So, you know, I agree with what Glenn was saying, and I had testimony at the hearing. The part that I am very confused about is that the Litch development was not even discussed as affordable housing, and it's now all luxury housing. We have not even explored any options. I understand that we need to have affordable housing in my community, and I believe in affordable housing, but we did not explore any other options to provide that affordability.
Hey,
And
Bridget, we
also-
had a lot of meetings about Litch. I don't know what you're referring to. We had a lot of meetings about
No,
Litch. And
I'm
Councilmember
speaking
Lander
about-
specifically had a whole meeting about this. I don't know. I just don't know where you're.
Excuse me, sir. Michael, I am speaking. Give me the respect of what I'm speaking about. I
But
was
what you're
not on
saying
the
is so
community
off.
board. I was not on the community board when you were talking about Litch. So
You just
what
said
I'm
we
saying
didn't
to you,
explore it.
do you, no, we never, okay, Michael, I am saying to you, they took the option of that development. I have never been told that that was a discussion of affordability. And second of all, we have had this discussion about the Gowanus houses, and we have not even discussed developing a platform for my whole community to learn about the EPA results. And I am telling you, as a community member, I was never given a report. And I'm telling you, I'm against this rezoning, not to the fact that I don't want affordable housing. I'm against this rezoning because it's a toxic waste dump. And if you feel that we need to put people of low income, then you know what? I expect everybody on my community board to go take a dip in the water and everybody go apply for that apartment because I asked you to live there. I am sorry, that's how I feel, and that was my platform. And I am telling you, my community deserves the best, and everybody who lives in my community deserves the best. And you did not even explore the option of workforce housing. We have never discussed it. I am done. I vote no, and I'm verbal. And shame on you, Brad Lander, and shame on you, Bill de Blasio.
Okay, thank you very much, Bridget. Mark Torrance.
Hey everyone, I wanted to start off by just introducing myself. I'm Mark, and this is my first. That's actually my first meeting as a community board member, so quite an introduction. However, I've been
Welcome aboard, Mark.
Thank you. I've been serving on the Transportation Committee for 2 years and attending meetings before that. So this is not my first meeting. I've been following this issue closely as well. We have a housing crisis in this city, and at some point, to solve a housing crisis like that, we have to build housing. And certainly, there are plenty of very valid concerns with this rezoning that I think this board's committee has addressed very thoroughly in the resolution. However, the city doesn't have the time to wait around and block any potential new housing that comes along to wait for the perfect plan. I agree with Jerry that I think just voting no because we don't agree with everything in this plan takes us out of the process. I think this community especially needs to do its part in adding housing to its district, and we can't sit around and block every new upzoning and new developments in our district. So while again there are plenty of valid concerns that I share, including the affordable housing and environmental concerns, I am in support of this rezoning. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you very much, Mark, and welcome to the community board. Eric is recognized next, please.
Put on that speakers list.
Thank you, Peter. I wanted to say thank you to the members of the Land Use Committee for the great work they've done on this rezoning and on the motion. It's extremely thorough, extremely well thought out. I applaud their work on it. I want to thank everybody in the community who has spoken up about the rezoning for or against it. Everybody who made the time to testify. It's a real testament to the community that there's been so much involvement in this. I want to echo Mark's remarks about having a housing crisis in the city. And really, we have a more acute housing crisis in the immediate vicinity of Gowanus and in Community Board 6. When my wife and I moved to Park Slope in 1996, I had a good paying job. We were able to afford a $2,800 apartment. That same apartment now would probably rent for about $6,000. And in the Gowanus rezoning, the 3-bedroom apartments at 40 to 60% AMI would rent in the range of about a top end of $1,500, which is far, far below what the asking rents are in the surrounding community. When we bought our house in Park Slope in 1999, we moved onto a block in the middle of Park Slope on 4th Street that was very diverse. It was all races and ethnicities, a lot of working class people who had been there for a couple generations. Today, 22 years later, my block is almost completely white. Almost all the residents are professionals, lawyers, doctors, people who can afford to pay $3 million plus for a townhouse in the neighborhood. And so for most of New York City, the housing here is unattainable. This project will help to alleviate that. It certainly is not a panacea, and it will not solve all the problems that we face in New York City, but it will get us going in that direction. It will make the neighborhood attainable for some people. 2,500 affordable units is nothing to sneeze at. It's going to be significant for those 2,500 families who are able to move into those units. And so for that reason, I support this rezoning, and I am going to vote yes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric. Next, I recognize Joanna Smith.
Can I be put on the speakers list?
Pauline, you have to use the hand raising function, but yes, I'll recognize you after Joanna.
Hi, good evening.
Joanne, one second. Peter, I think Pauline's on her phone, so I don't think she can.
Okay,
Sorry,
all right.
Joanna.
Pauline, I will recognize you next after Joanna.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I am on the Land Use and Landmarks Committee, and I took a lot of pleasure and interest in going through our proposal and contributing amendments, which were accepted by my fellow committee members, with the intention of making this the strongest plan that we could. But what I'm having trouble with is the framework that to be a majority view, that if we vote yes, we get to have all the things we asked for. And if we vote no, we're completely out of the process. I don't believe that to be true. I think that's a flawed framework. And there are a number of omissions are very resolution that I feel warrant our voting no. I cannot reconcile my knowledge of the climate emergency that we're in with the location of this zoning, and that impacts many, many different issues and details of what we've had to address, but that is my underlying concern. And I know as an urban planner that we need dense urban living to combat the problems that I'm worried about. But is this the right place? And I would also just in close like to remind everyone that the community board and the district that we're talking about is a completely arbitrary political boundary. It's a thing about the way that it's shaped that is set in stone, or that it needs to be that way forever. So thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Pauline, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
My name is Pauline Blake, and I too am on the Landmarks Committee. And I'd like to raise an issue, and I think most people have forgotten it. I don't think that most of us as minorities are against affordable housing. What we're against is the fact that what most of you consider affordable is not affordable to minorities. Most minority families do not have the luxury of having an earning of $42,000 or $45,000 a year. Most of them have less, and they have other priorities that use a portion of that fund. So that's my first problem with this issue, that most of you can only talk about affordable housing. My other issue is the fact that we have so many other critical concerns in the community that have been raised for more than 20 years, like sewer overflow. What are all these conditions met? And what will happen to all these people that still will have that problem with heavy rainfalls, will have problems with storm warnings, with storm runoff? Where do we leave all these people? And my most concerted concern at this moment is that we are in a political climate where most of our elected officials involved with this rezoning are lame ducks. They're all about to be changed. And I can assure you, no matter what they're going to tell us, they are not going to fight for you and for me and for all minorities because they want to. They're now going to be worried about their future opportunities and how they would look with their new constituents and not the constituents of the past. Let us not forget that we as a community board have had these motions in the past, and those that we have added on to our accept with concerns have just been that, concerns. We've done it in the Permits and License Committee, and they laugh at us. It is totally ignored in certain agencies. So what we have to look at in this community board tonight, and I am voting no. I don't care whether most people like it or not because they're worried about housing. I am worried not only for housing, I'm worried for climate conditions. I'm worried for our business people in the IBZ. I'm worried for those community members who are going to be displaced because you're going to have to tear down to build up. What are we going to do for that? Are you going to tell me that you're going to provide enough housing to take care of all the needs of my minority brothers and sisters? I don't think so. We have not yet come up with a task force in the 10 years that we've discussed this zoning that will look at all the issues and meet with all the community groups. Some community groups have had no discussion whatsoever with city planning, even though city planning has attempted to meet with all of us. My vote on this issue is always going to be no, unless those provisions that we are stipulating in our motion is mandated as a part of the rezoning, is written into the rezoning that they cannot be changed or amended once the rezoning has passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pauline. Is there anyone else that wishes to be recognized for the first time to speak on this motion? Seeing none right now, I recognize Glenn.
Thank you, Peter. I just wanted to respond to Alec and Ariel questioning my numbers. I misspoke at last week's meeting and corrected myself in saying that 90% of this development will be housing and commercial space. I didn't just say 90% market rate housing. I said that tonight, just the way I just said it. So I did not misspeak tonight. You misheard. I'm not saying that I'm against rezoning the Gowanus Canal. I think it should be rezoned. I'm very supportive of affordable housing. I just think that we shouldn't be putting it in a flood zone. That's very short-sighted, and we shouldn't be putting it on toxic land. We should make sure that it's cleaned up properly, and then we'll see. Regarding Gowanus Green and the park, it's far safer to use a space like that for open space where people visit for an hour or so and they're outside in the open air than it is building housing. So I just wanted to clarify that since David mentioned it. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Jerry, you wanted to be recognized again?
Yes, please. I wasn't going to speak again, but we've had some comments that I think I have to, not sure if rebut's the correct term. One of our board members talked about lich. I think it's important for the board members who are relatively new and some who are old to be reminded that the disposition of lich, the closing of lich, and the disposition of that property was a state project mandated by the governor and honchoed by his Department of Health. I happen to know that because due to court action and the agreement of a whole bunch of community groups, I was the only community person on the state evaluation panel for all of the RFPs. And the only thing I'll say about that without getting myself in trouble with lawyers is the results are not indicative of the way the panel voted. That's one. Another member just mentioned that none of our conditions make it into the final resolution. We have two examples where they did. Regardless of what you think of the IKEA furniture and build it yourself and all that, the left-hand turn lanes, the additional traffic lights in Red Hook, and the other improvements were all part of our recommendation for the ULURP of Red Hook for the IKEA project. And in fact, that was supported by both the borough president at the time and our council person. The same was true, and it was not a ULURP, it was a ULURP action. For those of you who remember Fairway down in Red Hook, which is now Food Bazaar, any of the improvements and changes of the street directions and additional traffic lights on Van Brunt Street were all recommendations that were included in our recommendation on what was then the Fairway rezoning. And they did come to fruition as part of the project. I will say there was one on IKEA that did not come through and we're still working on. There's one other person who, one of our congressional liaison person who remembers that our recommendation on IKEA also included a footnote, actually a recommendation, shouldn't call it a footnote, was that eventually IKEA should go to all marine deliveries of their flat boxes to eliminate all traffic in Red Hook. That so far has not happened, and hopefully someday with enough pressure it will. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Daniel Kuma.
Yes, good evening. I'm Daniel Coomer. I'm a member of the Landmarks Land Use Committee, a former chair of the.
I had to knock that lady down.
Jerry, you need to mute now. And I would echo all that's been said in support of this resolution. I strongly urge members of the community board to vote in favor of it. This is a remarkable resolution, the likes of which I don't think has ever emerged from this board before, and certainly not in the 15 years or more that I've been a member. And the way for us to stay relevant in this process is to pass a resolution that approves with conditions, and we have conditions in this resolution that address virtually every objection that was raised Certainly, when I sat through the hearing and over again, heard opposition to the motion, opposition to the zoning resolution, unless there were three conditions mentioned: the NYCHA housing, the CSOs, and the task force. We saw those three conditions and we raised them by umpteen more. And this resolution, we have already heard from our councilman that he will take this as marching orders, and it is the way for us to stay relevant in this process. Voting no and simply saying no takes us out of it altogether and renders us advisory in the weakest sense of the word. So I urge you all to vote for this resolution, and I certainly will be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there anyone else that wishes to be recognized to speak on the Gowanus rezoning? Going once? Going twice? Okay, so we're going to conduct a roll call vote. I'm not entirely sure who's going to call the roll. I remind you that when your name is called, you need to unmute yourself and indicate
Peter, is
whether or
Karen
not you
here?
plan to vote for or against.
Is
I'm
Karen
sorry?
Broughton? Karen Broughton would be the one. I sent her I don't know if she's here though. Because she's the board secretary, so she would take the vote on it. But
if Karen is not here, then someone else needs to do it in her place, you or a tie.
I mean, I could do it. I could read it off.
Again, remember you have to unmute yourself and indicate yes or no. Okay, Mike, you can go ahead.
Okay.
And I will vote last.
I'll go to you last. Okay. First up, Mr. Jerome Jerry Armour.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Evan Farley.
Yes.
Leroy Branch.
Yes.
Karen Broughton. Not here. Joanne Brown.
Okay, I missed it, y'all, 'cause my phone went out. Now, what am I doing, please?
Voting on the Gowanus rezoning, Joanne.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, Samara Trilling. Kara Girl.
Sorry, I'm here. I apologize. This is Samara. I'm voting yes.
This is Kara Girl. I vote yes.
John Heyer.
Yes, Michael.
Glenn Kelly.
No.
Natasha.
No.
Daniel Coomer.
Yes.
Bridget.
No.
Hildegard. Charlie Piggott. Rachel.
Yes.
Angelica.
Yes.
Mark Torrance.
Yes.
Mark Shames.
Yes.
Reg.
Remember to unmute yourself if you're here.
Okay. I'm going to move on. Joanna Smith.
No.
Suzanne Tourette. Dan.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, who was that? Suzanne? I heard
Yes.
two yeses. Sorry.
Yeah, Van said yes, but Suzanne did as well.
Suzanne did it. Okay. Colleen Blake,
No.
Mr. David Briggs,
Yes.
Tiffany Reed Brown,
Yes.
Eladia,
Yes.
Michaela,
Yes.
Ariel,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Judith Thompson, Kiamisha Smalls, Kia. Victoria Alexander,
I'm sorry to unvote no. Unmute.
gotcha. Natasha Campbell,
So Mike, she answered previously. When
oh,
you-
she answered on the previous, okay.
Yeah, so I'm
I thought-
Natasha. That's okay. I'm Natasha Amott, but as I already told you, I'm leaving the community board and I'm going way far, well,
Okay,
far
so-
enough away that I have to abstain.
Okay, abstention. Sorry, I lost my place there. All right. Vilma,
Yes.
Vilma, Alec,
Yes.
Eric McClure,
Yes.
Tom Miskell, if he's on the phone. Deb Scotto, Dolly,
Yes.
Fritzner,
Yes.
I didn't, Fritzner, did you say something? I'm sorry. I mean, I heard
Yes.
something.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Paul Basile.
Abstain for cause.
Okay, abstain for cause. So we got one, okay. And the newest member, Todd Graham. I think he's here. I'm not going to give him his contact info. But I didn't count it all up, but pretty clearly the motion has passed.
I wasn't called. This is Bob Levine. I wasn't called.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
I'm-
jump.
before we
Who else?
tally
Oh, Peter, I was
it.
going to go to Peter. My bad. Bob, sorry. I went
Yes.
after. I don't know why whatever. I don't know why Victoria's not at the front because Alexander is. Anyway, sorry. Bob
That's
Levine.
right.
I should be at the front.
What? Sorry. Usually you're at the top of the list. I don't know why.
Yeah, why? I want to, argue about that now.
That's fine. We can. After we go to Bob. Bob.
Yes, I said 3 times.
That's what I
I
thought,
said
okay.
yes. Okay. No, I'm not
Okay.
answering you. I'm saying that.
And then Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Okay, so that is.
So before we close things up, is there anyone whose vote was not asked for or recorded? Again, anybody who did not have an opportunity to vote? Seeing none, we'll call the vote closed.
You want me to read it out? 28
yes.
in favor, 6 against, 1 abstention without cause. And the one with cause doesn't count against the vote.
Doesn't count. Great, thank you very much. Was there anybody that wanted to be recognized for something? I apologize, I saw some hands up. Jerry, go ahead. Please unmute.
Yep. I'd like to thank Alec, but I'd also like to thank the community and more importantly for their input. I'd like to thank Alec for running one hell of a public hearing and a damn long land use committee meeting. But I'd also like to thank the members tonight who voted and voiced their opinion. I think that is the kind of lively discussion we need. As a former chair, I like listening to these discussions. I think that we learn a lot and we understand what's going on in the community even better. So thank you, thank all of you for partaking in this, at least from me. And regardless of which way you voted, hopefully in September, we will see each other in person. I really hope so. I am
That's
tired of
certainly the
Zoom.
goal.
Thank you.
I want to second Jerry's recognition of Alec. He did a fine job.
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
So do I, and I think you should get 2 years worth of credit for this.
There you go. We're going to move on to hear from representative of elected officials. So I'm going to need some help about who to call on because I don't see them here in the room. So I'm presuming they're here somehow. But so if there's one who's here and wants to start, please do that. Again, any representative of elected officials that want to be recognized.
Hi, yeah, this is Nate Stravinsky from Borough President Eric Adams' office. Yeah, I just wanted to convey, I've been observing the meeting and appreciate everybody's diligent review of the issues at hand. And then, because Mike announced in the newsletter earlier today, there's a ULERP meeting on the 30th. So just 1 week from today that we hope many of you will attend as well. Yeah, and our office stands to support CB6 in whatever way we can otherwise. So appreciate everybody's time.
I saw Donna Newton from Joanne Simon's office.
Hi, everyone. Thank you once again for these meetings. I just wanted to basically say hello and say hello from Joanne to everyone. Just give you a really quick update on some of the legislation that passed in the session. There was a wage theft bill that passed, which provides that there are no exceptions to liability for failure to pay wages. And this was an issue because some people were working and not getting paid and had no recourse for it. That will no longer happen. There were several major gun violence legislation bills passed. One provides for taxpayer gifts for gun violence research, and the other one establishes the Gun Violence Research Fund, which is super important. This will live within SUNY, and it will lead gun violence research across the state and help provide elected officials, government agencies, and the public with data that will help prevent gun violence going forward. And then really important to this area is the weight and motion bill that was sponsored by Brian Kavanaugh and Joanne, and this has to do with the BQE. It's a pilot program along the BQE that will use weight and motion technology to detect the presence of vehicles that are overweight and are contributing greatly to the deterioration of the roadway. So this will no longer be happening, and this is a big step forward in terms of moving the redo of the roadway so that we can have a 21st century solution to this problem. That's it. Thank you very much.
Julia from Brad Lander's office.
Hi, hi everyone. Sorry, there's like a lawnmower outside being very noisy, so I hope that doesn't interfere with your ability to hear. I don't have a lot to add. I just want to say thank you all for, you know, all the thought and work and attention to detail that you've all put into reviewing this proposal. Listen to all the comments at the hearing, all of the board discussion, and we really appreciate the detailed feedback. It's really helpful for me as we move forward over the next few months in talking with the city and negotiations to improve the plan. And I am available, you know, for other questions and comments. And we really do want to work as hard as we possibly can to get these changes into the rezoning before the Brad votes. So I just want to reiterate that comment from the council member and say thank you again.
Thank you, Julia. Edward from the mayor's office.
Good evening, everyone. Edward Cerner, Brooklyn Borough Director for the Mayor's Office. On the vaccination front, we as a city have administered over 9 million doses of the vaccine, and we've announced two programs to help with that effort. The first is the vaccine referral bonus program, which is being done in conjunction with NYCHA, tenant resident associations, community-based organizations, and houses of worship. What the program essentially does is allows them to partner with the city so they could get paid for some of the outreach work in getting folks vaccinated. We also announced today that if folks would like to get vaccinated at home, they can fill out a request at nyc.gov/homevaccine. I'll keep it short. Secondly, we also announced the business quick start, which is for folks that would like to open a business. And just the business community at large. The mayor is making 3 commitments. First, that when someone reaches out to SPS, they'll have a dedicated concierge to walk them through the entire process of getting permitted. So we're cutting through that red tape and making it simpler for the city to come back, open up new jobs and open the doors to businesses. Second, we're guaranteeing business owners that do reach out to SPS that they'll get a turnaround time of 48 hours for any issues they may have. Again, cutting through that red tape, trying to get answers to folks quicker. Lastly, we're committing $11 million to the Quick Start Initiative. That money will allow us to pull a lot of folks from different agencies, again, to be problem solvers, cut through the red tape and open doors of businesses more quickly. You can reach out to SPS at 800-SPS4-NYC, or you can go to nyc.gov/business. Other than that, I really want to thank the board for all of the work they've done on the rezoning. I was listening and I was at the public hearing chair. I remember saying hi to you. And yeah, just wishing everyone a happy and safe summer. You can always reach me at ecerna@cityhall.nyc.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other representatives of elected officials that want to be recognized?
Peter, I believe Dan Wiley's here too.
Oh, Dan, go ahead.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Peter and everybody. My sister did well yesterday, but I will not get political. The Congresswoman has been busy. And I did want to make reference to Jerry Armour's reference to me about the IKEA waterborne study and mention that, he went into some of the history of Litch. I know the Congresswoman and I got arrested on trying to save Litch. I know the community board and a lot of people worked very hard to try to save Litch. It was a state decision. The whole development process that happened there, had a choice between going with some kind of community agreement and zoning change or letting them go as of right without certain, anyway, that's a whole another discussion. But with regard to IKEA, I just wanted to point out that the Congresswoman 20 years ago, when they wanted to locate IKEA on the banks of the Gowanus Canal, where Lowe's is currently, that Bruce Ratner owns, we did transportation studies and looked at the traffic impacts and quantified what the impacts would be. And it was a group of transportation planners that did that study in 2003. We basically shamed them out of locating on the banks of Gowanus. Now it's Lowe's Home Improvement, which is as of right in an industrial zone. But we were rewarded by them moving to Red Hook. But then, the community board and a lot of things were leveraged from IKEA as a condition of approval for the special permit they needed to be in Red Hook. And as Jerry said, they did improve a lot of things, including ferry service before there was the New York City ferry, including shuttle buses, including improvements to the roads. And they did it before they opened. So I make this point just because last week, the community board committee, and in the middle of the week, there was a Red Hook conversation about the last mile delivery logistics centers that are going up as of right. They don't need special permits. So we would need new rules if we were to have some leverage on them. And so I know there's more discussion that's going to be happening between some of the committees of your community board and the one to the south, Community Board 7, which is also in the Congresswoman's district. So I just raised that. And the last thing about waterborne study is that, you know, I recalled that you guys did have, in your conditions that IKEA do a waterborne study 5 years after opening in bringing goods by water, since they have the waterfront location. They claim that they did do the study like 5 years after they opened, which was when it'd be like 12 years ago. I haven't seen it though, but I think with all of the Amazon, UPS, the Dove Hurt site, the Thor Equity site coming to Red Hook, there's a critical mass of these logistics last mile delivery centers that would make updating such a study with more involved, including the agencies like DOT and EDC and Freight NYC and Doc NYC, that should really be done again with a new context. So I'm looking forward to the work the community board is going to do with everyone there. And with regard to the rezoning, thanks for the 15-page amendments. A lot of good reading, and I just wanted to mention that I did speak with EPA today and spoke with someone in headquarters, acknowledging that they have an enforcement and compliance division. So not only do they have a water division, air, and also Superfund, those are separate divisions. They also have a compliance division. So I've called EPA headquarters to see if we can get more staff and eyes on this Gowanus rezoning as an involved agency, as well as the letter that we sent for Army Corps and FEMA to also be involved because of the cross-cutting jurisdictions. And then the last thing I'll say is that we have a big infrastructure bill coming up, and the Congresswoman just put in some amendments to the surface transportation bill. I just thought I'd highlight one, which includes creating a guarantee that residents of public housing and of other HUD designated affordable housing programs are considered and benefit from resilient infrastructure investments. Further revises the study to consider the needs of and create opportunities for individuals registered with One-Stop Career Center in climate resilience workforce. In other words, let's create jobs for folks in subsidized housing. There's also another amendment she has to make grants for nonprofits related to reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the surface transportation system. And there's another one, since Red Hook has all of this flood resiliency work, but lost a lot of trees, which would add trees as part of an eligible project to be funded. So we could address the heat island effect in these urban deserts that we're creating. That's all.
Thank you, Dan. I want to add, before we move on, my own thanks to Alec, to Jerry, to David Briggs, the chair of the Landmarks Committee, to Ariel, the chair of the Economic Development Committee, for all the fine work that they did on the rezoning. It has been a lengthy and arduous process, with different viewpoints representative, but ultimately, hopefully, we made a decision that will benefit our neighborhood. I know some disagree with that, but hopefully we can move forward with that. Are there any other representatives of elected officials that want to speak? Hearing none, we're going to move on to community session. Ty, did anybody register for community session?
I don't think we have a registration list for tonight's meeting, but if anyone on the attendee side would like to speak, please use the raise hand function and we'll read off one at a time in the order that you raise your hand, and we'll give you the typical 3 minutes.
Anybody that wishes to speak at community session?
I see Luke Thayer, so I'm gonna promote Luke to the panel.
Okay.
Luke, please unmute yourself and you've got 3 minutes.
All right, guys. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to talk about this. I've not been to a community board meeting, but we were told, at least through some representative on the board, that our community here on 14th Street and 3rd Avenue should talk to you about a problem with a building across the street, office building that has been essentially working as a nightclub for, well, definitely since the vaccinations have been going on, but prior to that, some too, where parties start at 11 p.m. and then go all night long. So I don't know if this is the appropriate time to talk about it or not, but thought I'd throw this in here.
We'd be happy to have you, either contact Mike or Ty to give them the details. The obvious thing the question to ask is, do they have the appropriate permits to operate in that space? And that's something that we can certainly research. And then if necessary, we'll refer it to a committee, but hopefully we can help you solve the problem without that.
Okay. So that's something.
Can I just jump in here? Because I've already spoken with several people from the block. Sorry, Luke.
Sure.
So yeah, this is a pretty complicated situation that Mike and I have both been working on a bit. And I know Mike has done his best to forward this along to the council member's office as well. What we have is a situation where there's basically a BYOB event space inside of a building. It does not have a liquor license. So the community board itself, we have no leverage to do anything other than to leverage our relationships with the council member's office and the NYPD. And I know Mike has also contacted the appropriate precinct for this. I've got an open set of emails coming from different people on the block. So if you want to send them to me and be part of that cache of emails that I can share and have ready to go when the police actually do something about this, you're more than welcome to email me at ty@bkcb6.org. But again, I just want to emphasize that we've heard a lot about this. We've done everything we can to address it as far as our leverage goes, and we have escalated it. So as far as what's next, it's hard to say because again, where the leverage piece is a little unclear.
Okay.
I can just jump in and say, I do recall seeing a message about this. And I think the business may have reached out to our office. I'm not really the constituent services person, so I will follow up with Nicole, who manages this work in our office, and make sure that we get back to you. I think we do have those emails already, but if not, I'll reach out to Ty.
Luke, it's important to document the complaint. So you and your neighbors should be making 311 calls or going online.
Oh, we have
numbers, because you want all of that to show others.
What's the location?
14th Street between 2nd and 3rd. The building location, this office building, is 84 14th Street.
Great. Thank you, Luke. Stay in touch with us and we'll tell you what we can. Anybody else want to be recognized for a question on community session?
I see Tammy Peterson. So Tammy, I'm going to promote you to the panel. Please unmute yourself when you get the chance.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So I'm Tammy Peterson. I'm the Communications and Events Specialist at IKEA Brooklyn. I've been attending the CB6 meetings. I found this one very interesting. I just wanted to address the issue on the water study. I can look into it, Dan, and see if I can get a copy of that. I know it should have been released at the time. I started in this position back in February, but I'll look into that and see if I can get a copy for you and the members of the board as well. So.
Thank you. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is not until September. Our hope certainly is that we will be able to gather in person. Jerry, did you wish to be recognized to say something?
Well, Peter, we do have a couple more hands up on
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Daniel Cashin, I'm upgrading you to the panel now. Please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Only barely.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Apologies. Echoing a little bit the noise issue, I live in Red Hook, and it just seems like over the past year, I know this may sound like a broken record, but noise has been a dramatic issue. These unlicensed motorcycles, these boom cars just plaguing our neighborhood. I live actually next to Coffee Park on Richard Street, and some days it just sounds like a racetrack. Multiple 311 calls, complaints, actually calling the precinct directly, talking to officers. It's just the situation seems to be worsening. And I'm just wondering if this issue has been raised to the board in the past, and if there's a comprehensive plan to escalate this with the NYPD so noise is actually enforced. I can't imagine any of these vehicles have legal mufflers, exhaust, and the motorcycles clearly do not have license plates. So that's my question. Thank you.
I don't have an answer. Perhaps Ty or Mike does.
Yeah, I'll jump in again here, Peter. Daniel, what we're going to need is my email address again, and I'll put it in the chat. It's Ty, T-Y, @bkcb6.org. Please send me the 311 complaint numbers that you've generated so far. And what we need is some way to predict when this is going to happen. That's the only way for enforcement to really do anything about it. So if you can sort of in an email narrative describe to me when this is most typically happening, when it's most likely to happen, then we can try to get some kind of enforcement out there.
Ty, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with me so I can speak to the precinct CO about it. Thanks.
Absolutely, Jerry.
Somebody else wants to be recognized, Ty?
Yeah, Owen Foote. Owen, I'm promoting you right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Owen Foote. I am a member of the Gowanus Dredgers Canoe Club. You know me from conversations with 300 Huntington Street. All Community Board 6 members should know that your recommendations for on-water access at that site was not presented to the City Planning Commission. So I encourage you to be very specific when you submit your recommendations. If you go to the recorded review, the city planning staff did not present that in their list of suggestions from the community board. And that's why I'm here tonight. You have two other opportunities. You have the dead end street of 2nd Avenue, already a launch site at the New York City Water Trail Association under a separate ULURP application. That site could be approved to allow for on-water accommodations. It would serve a large part of the Gowanus community that is somewhat affordable. I posted some affordable rents for 2-bedroom apartments tonight for those that are seeking affordability in our Gowanus fine neighborhood. Second site under consideration and discussion tomorrow would be the DeGraw Street end, and that would provide accommodations for over 4,000 NYCHA residents. I understand your resolution with regard to the greater rezoning neglected to ask for accommodations for on-water access at that location, and I would hope that the Community Board 6 would be considerate to these other portions of our community. Currently, there's one access site at the Gowanus Canal for active recreation. it serves a mostly white, mostly affluent Carroll Gardens and sometimes Cobble Hill residents or Park Slope residents of Community Board 6 so that they can enjoy the filthy, disgusting, contaminated waterway that we've been canoeing in for the last 22 years, soon to be somewhat cleaner dramatically after the Superfund site. How sad would it be that that's the only dead-end street location that's proposed, the only location for our community board, the only location for our community that is a diverse and varied constituency that we should be encouraging use and accommodation for on-water access. Sadly, they put barriers up at the dead end of Huntington Street as the proposed adoption of that rezoning, despite very dramatic testimony at the City Planning Commission. Please, I am encouraging you to consider other portions of our Gowanus waterfront. At the Gowanus Dredgers Canoe Club, we do have our headquarters at the 2nd Street location, but we would love to serve the less affluent community of mostly, I would say, Latin and African descent that make our Gowanus neighborhood so vibrant and strong. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening.
Thanks, Owen. Ty, is there anyone else?
That's it, just the 2 board members with their hands raised.
Great, Jerry and then Tiffany.
Actually, Peter, you said what I was just going to ask you to announce, that we don't meet July and August, but the executive committee might.
Yes.
So you beat me to it. Thank you.
Okay. Tiffany, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, this may be out of turn, but I do have an issue in regards to our community board and in general. I'm trying to find out like what programs with the rezoning and everything that's going on. I do have a concern with NYCHA children being neglected in this whole process. And in regards to that, what are we doing as a community board to start having people implement programs and situations where NYCHA children aren't being forgotten? I feel like there's, with all these programs and the redevelopment and stuff like that that's going on, even with the tennis program that's across the street from Wyckoff, I feel like they're not catering to the neighborhood that they actually in. We don't have any programs or event spaces that are dedicated to low-income families. That's actually catering to low-income families. The tennis program across the street from Wyckoff is extremely expensive. The piggyback off what Owen said earlier, there's nothing around our neighborhood right now that caters to NYCHA's children. Like I said, I may be talking out of turn. This may have been brought up in a different meeting, but this is something that was sitting in my spirit and it was constantly bothering me. There's nothing over there that caters to families with low income families with children. Nothing. And for the summertime, Thomas Green Park is going under construction right now. So there's literally nothing over there. And as a community board and as a community board member, what can we do to start implementing these developers put programs, after school programs, enrichment programs in the neighborhood that will be diverse? Because honestly speaking, it is only the affluent white community that's actually benefiting from a lot of the stuff that's going on over there and from the changes that's going on. And NYCHA residents, especially our children, are being pushed out. There's nothing for them to do over there.
That's a very fair point. We do have a youth services committee, so perhaps we can ask them to look into that, and they'll probably contact you for some ideas, and it might be something that we can ask the developers to become involved in, because I think it is a great idea and it's something that's definitely needed. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else that wishes to be recognized? I wish everyone a happy summer, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jerry. Second by Hilda. Second by Leroy, a traditional maker of such a motion. Thank you all.
Jerry beat me to it this
We are adjourned. We will see you in September. We'll probably see the executive board sometime over the summer. And thank you all for your time and for your volunteer service. We really appreciate it. Be well, everyone.